Harvesting is your biggest important factor in handling seed. You can ruin good seed at harvest time if you don't handle it right. I've seen that more than once. You've got to allow the plant to mature. Let it mature on its own. Don't rush it. Let Mother Nature take care of that problem. And each type of plant has an optimum time for collecting. Some plants you might have to harvest earlier in order to get that seed quality. There's some plants you've got to wait until that plant gets fully harvested or fully mature in order to harvest it. Now on seed corn, we harvest seed corn at 40% moisture. There's still a milk layer in that seed corn. And the reason it is because there's less damage at that moisture than it would be if it was harvested drier. However, there is an exception to the rule. If you harvest your corn with the shuck on it, you can let it dry down more where it doesn't have as much moisture in it. You're not going to damage as much because that shuck is going to protect it during that process, but you still have to take that shuck off that to process that corn. So always remember that. And the factors, like I said, climate is one of your biggest factors that affects seed quality or seed in general. Well, I'll give you a typical example. We've had a lot of rain this year in Kentucky and Tennessee. Well, the seed quality and most of the seed that's going to be harvested there is not going to be good. It's going to be fair quality because we've had too much disease. We've had drought stress at one time for about 2 weeks, and then we went back into a wet spell. And then the plants are maturing faster than what they should be, which is going to affect the seed quality. So it's going to be interesting to see what the seed's quality is going to be at harvest time once it's being processed. And the eastern region, like I said, is more frequently to have thunderstorms and rain than what we would when we go farther west and like out here in California. We've got high humidity where we're at. 70–80% humidity. You walk out the door on a 90-degree day and it looks like you've been in a shower. Is what it does. These low humid days like this is nice, but low humidity can affect the quality of seed also in the same token. So you have to be careful. Idaho is one of the biggest states that raises vegetable seed because of the climate there. It's cool. There's not as much humidity. It's not quite the climate as California is, but it's close. But they've got a little more moisture in the air, but it's not near what we get where we live at. So that's why a lot of your vegetable seed is raised in Idaho basically because of the temperature, the coolness that it is. And like I said, the western region for beans, western region is great for raising beans. They are noted for pintos, lentils, bush beans, pole beans, because of the drier climate. You push it out there where we are, they mold in the pod before they get mature. So you've got to think of where you're at and what kind of climate you got too, because that will definitely affect your seed quality. Seed drying is another factor, and we have seen many a seed crops that was the greatest seed crops there ever was produced, and the producer screwed up. I'll put it blunt to the point, he screwed up. He either dried it too quick, or he didn't dry it when it should have been dried and he got mold in that seed lot, or he dried it at a too high of a temperature. There's 3 factors there that affects that. We solar dry all of our corn seed that we use. In other words, one of our greenhouses we use as a solar dryer. Turn on the fans and let the air run through it. Put the seed on the ears on the bench, and they stay on the bench until they're dried down. We can get seed corn dried down to 8% in a greenhouse without any problem. And that's what we like to store our seed corn at, is 8%. Soybeans, we like to see it at 12. Maybe 11 would be better. You get anything below that, and same way with bush beans and pole beans. And your peas, same way. You get the moisture level too low, and your seed will come apart. It'll start cracking, and it'll just come apart. If you're doing it by hand, you have to be careful. But if you're doing it mechanically, you have to be really careful about the seed moisture content. Through experience, my wife and I don't use a moisture tester because we can look at it and feel it with our hands. We can tell you within probably 0.01% of what that moisture is going to be because we've done it for so many years. Take it from right hand to left hand, or right hand to, or left to right, or right to left, and you can just feel it, what the moisture is. You can bite down in it too once you know what the real moisture is supposed to be, and you can judge it from there too. But it just takes years of experience to do that. But really, you need a moisture tester to actually do that. Not having the experience like we've got, and I'm not bragging, but once you learn it, you'll basically forget about using a moisture tester. You'll just do it on your instinct after you do it for so many years. Low moisture seed content is the secret of storage. Always remember that. The more moisture you got in the seed is not going to store very well. It's not going to store over a long period of time. We've got seed in our freezers at home that is 50 years old and they still germinate 100%. Just like the day they were harvested. And that was because it was handled right and processed right. Seed moisture is one of the most detrimental effects on seed quality there ever was. Out here in California, you've got the lower humidity. That's great on seed quality. Where we're at with the high humidity, we've got to be very careful on how to handle that seed. And the seed viability, this is a rule of thumb now, a general rule of thumb. I'll have a lot of general rules of thumb. But 18% and greater, your seed quality would go to nothing. You put 18% seed moisture in a freezer, you might as well just throw it away because it will kill the embryo in that seed because of that high moisture in that seed. That's why you have to dry it down lower than what you normally do. Tomato seed, pepper seed, we dry ours down to anywhere from 5.5 to 7% moisture. And we've got pepper and tomato seed. Well, let me put it like this. My grandfather had it. I've still got one of the original lots. And it's like 70-some years old, and it still germinates 100%. Because the seed moisture is low. Refrigerator's all right, but long-term storage, you want to use a freezer. We've just got regular freezers like you put your meat in. That's all we use. We've got 5 of them. Solar drying, like I said, we've got 14 greenhouses. Part of those greenhouses are used to dry our seed crops. We put the seed on the benches and turn the fans on and just run air constantly through those during the daytime. They're set on thermostats. They're set at 70 degrees, and they run until it gets down 70 degrees. It takes longer, but when you dry seed at a slower rate, the seed quality goes extremely high when you do that. And this is an example of the corn that's in our greenhouse now. This was taken just before I did the final proof of this presentation. This is it laying on the benches in the greenhouse. And when I get back, it should be ready to shell. Yeah, they're in mesh bags. We put our corn in mesh bags, and the air can flow through that bag, and if you get some loose seed or some, they're not going to go anywhere because that bag is fine enough that that kernel can't get out of that bag. And we can do that with tomato and pepper seed too. We've got some bags. We use cotton bags, muslin bags for those, and just put them on top of the bench and just let the air take care of it. And we can dry this down. This will be dried down to about 8% when we get back tomorrow, back to Kentucky and Tennessee. Depends on the air temperature. If it's been like what we've had, I can take from 30% corn to 8%, I can do it in 7 days, air drying it. But if you've got 70 to 80 days, it's going to take about 2.5 weeks to do that. But I still don't complain though. It don't make any difference. As long as you can dry that seed at a constant rate every day and get it dried down to where you need the moisture that you need, that's fine with me. I'll wait. Once we get that seed dried down to where we want it at and get it in the freezer, normally it doesn't pick up. It might pick up maybe 0.1% or something during that time. Seed that's been in the freezer 50 years It's only picked up 0.2% in 50 years is all it's picked up. So once you get your seed down to where you want the moisture content at, generally it's not going to go back up as long as you get it in that freezer and keep it in that freezer. You can take it in and out once in a while, but you're not going to pick up enough moisture, you know, like 1% or 2% to really change it that much. So, you know, it's worked out well. The secret of it is getting it to the moisture to begin with, and then you won't have any problem later on. And this is some of our tomato seed that was air dried. This is put on wax paper. We go through the fermentation process with tomato seed. Squeeze the seed out. We put it in pans, and then there's a fungus that grows over it. It'll color it white. That's good fungus. That's not bad fungus. What it does, it eats that gel away from that seed. If you don't do that, that seed of that tomato will never germinate because that gel keeps the seed from germinating. It's got enzymes and amino acids in there that keeps the germination to nothing until you go through that fermentation process. And it don't smell bad or nothing. I do it on a kitchen counter, and it smells good. Now, if it smells rotten or something, you've got a problem. Something's happened. You need to just discard that lot of seed and move forward and get you another good lot, because it's not. You can't take bad seed and make good seed out of it. Some people think you can. There's some seed companies that takes 2 or 3 old seed, and then they'll take a new crop and blend it with it, trying to get the seed germination back up. Sometimes they'll get away with it, and sometimes they'll make it worse. So it depends on the seed quality of what they're working with.